She has a little bit less magical resistance, so she's a little bit more fragile from magic, but overall, like, pretty much tankier, stronger, faster, everything that. And, yeah, melons. Good start to your Roy Fate Hero. I think he's actually the best Brave Bow user in the game, other than possibly Halloween Jacob. Halloween Jacob also has 35 attack. This Roy, Brave Bow Roy on a horse, also has 35 attack. So they both are very, very, very strong users of Brave Bow. And everyone always slept on like Reinhardt. When everyone looked at Reinhardt's stats initially, they're like lol, low speed, omega lol, you know? Now Reinhardt's a beast, right? So just consider Roy here like a pretty good beast as well, because he has 35 attack with a Brave Bow on a horse, okay? That's pretty scary if you think about it. And he can benefit from the Honed Cavalry and Fortified Cavalry buffs very well. So like he'll end up with 36 bulk, defense, 33 resistance, and up to 51 attack with Brave Bow, and then 57 with Death Blow 3. So that's really scary. Now, about the Glimmer though, I don't really recommend that. I feel like you should change it to probably Draconic Aura. Think like Bravelin. Your attack stat, it's going to scale really well. So if you give him a Honed Cavalry buff, he's going to reach like 57 attack, and that's about 18, I think. It's 18 bonus damage, which is equivalent to Bonfire with the Fortified Cavalry buff, but you should be using Honed Cavalry on him. So ideally you give him Draconic Aura instead of Glimmer, and that'll make sure that you get that proc off every second fight. You could also consider Glimmer with Quick Impulse, but that does reduce his damage a little bit because you have to sacrifice the attack 3 instead of Quick Impulse. You get more burst damage with a Quick Impulse seal instead of attack 3, which is going to be a little bit more consistent damage. As for the assist, just run him with Drawback or Reposition, and the C slot ideally is something like Fortify Cavalry instead of Fortify Res. Yeah, the Bowbreaker is fine in the B slot. I'm not totally against that, but you're going to see more sword units, honestly, and he can take retaliations from sword units. So some of the really tanky sword units he may struggle to kill, but with a Fortified Cavalry buff, he's not going to struggle that much. And like killing like Zelgius, Axebreaker is also an option if you want to kill like Amelia's, Hector's, and such. Yeah, it's all pretty good choices. Overall, just change the special Draconic Aura, give him an assist, and run him with Fortified Cavalry in your set. Solid Roy. Just to compare it with Leo, wow, good variant here. Thanks for sending this in as well. So Fate Shiro was using the offensive Brave Bow set, which I like, but this is also a good variant you can run because of his defensive stats. I think it's very similar to my Faye build, actually. My Faye runs Guard Bow as well. I want to give her distant defense on the A slot eventually, and then obviously I use distant defense in the seal slot. And yeah, I mean, it's really good, really good. Like the B slot being quick repose is important. Ideally you bring that up to quick repose 3. Seal slot wants to probably be Hone Cavalry because this is a defensive Roy, so you want to give Hone Cavalry to the defensive units and then give Fortified Cavalry to the offensive units. That's usually how you want to make it work. And yeah, like Iceberg is likely to go off here because he's going to get doubled. So like a unit attacks you, it's down to 2, you attack, it's 1, they attack you, it's ready, and then you blow them up for big damage. So this is really, really good build. As for the Guard Bow Refine, I recommend either the defense or resistance. Resistance actually gives you some bonus damage as well. Yeah, it just kind of depends what you want them to cover. Overall, thank you for showing me this contrast to Fade's build. For those of you that want to consider building a Roy, definitely consider one of the two builds based on IVs. Like you don't want to minus attack Roy with a Brave Bow build, for instance. Overall, like solid variance in his builds. If I had Roy, I'd be building him either or depending on IVs. Good job, guys. Ursat sending me their Love Abounds Lyn. This is basically her base kit. I'm gonna assume that you need help choosing between Blarblade and the Blar Owl build. Honestly, I think she can run either Blarblade or Blar Owl pretty well, but Blarblade is going to be more expensive in my opinion. And you can pretty much run Blar Owl just with her default kit. So attack speed bond works really well with Blar Owl. You don't even have to change it. But if you want to run and guard 3 as well, like both of those skills are fine. You basically don't have to do much to change her kit other than giving her Blar Owl. So if you want to give her Blarblade though, you have to basically change out the A slot for Fury, B slot for Desperation. Ideally you can get a plus speed variant as well instead of plus attack because the speed is really good. And yeah, you go from there. Like the assist skill is ideally swap because it works really well on armor units, and then you want to run like a speed seal if you're running the Blarblade build. But if you're running the Blar Owl build, I think distant defense is pretty good. Increases your damage. A slot could be close counter on the Blar Owl build, but generally yeah, like just go with like a defense refinement or a resistance refinement on Blaral. Keep attack speed bond, keep guard. Those are all really good skills. And armor march as well is really crucial to running an armor team. So overall, it's your choice to make. Personally, I probably go with Blaral, and it's a very good build on it. You just bait out units and kill them. Okay, I see a Spring Crom by Roderick. Luna's okay here, but I think you definitely should change it to like Bonfire, because when you're running double close defense, you're gonna end up increasing your defenses up to about 10 here, so 38, and that gives you like 19 bonus damage. That 19 bonus damage is definitely better than Luna, because for you to get good value out of Luna, the enemy would need to have 38 defense when you're hitting them. So I'm more for Bonfire as your special. Also, the res refinement here is a little awkward. I mean, you probably should just keep them away from taking magical hits. You shouldn't get them in that situation. And it would actually scale your Bonfire damage even better if you just refined your Caradax with defense, and you can make him like a really strong frontliner that way, especially with Bonfire, and he would get doubled. So you would end up doing that. Threat and attack is fine in the C slot. I see nothing wrong with that. So maybe my biggest recommendations are keep the double close defense, keep quick repose, keep threat and attack, but maybe change this refinement to defense and Bonfire. That's my biggest suggestions to you. Okay, Milt's Summer Tiki. It's a similar kind of concept as the Spring Crom. They're both axe units. They're both pretty tanky, but the difference is she has a little bit less magical resistance, so she's a little bit more fragile from magic, but overall like pretty much tankier, stronger, faster. But anyways, it's similar concept to the Crom. You have that close defense, Bonfire, quick repose, and a speed seal. So you actually are reaching about 39 speed, so this is pretty good, but you may not secure kills, and that's what I don't like about this build, because with so much speed you're likely to avoid doubles, and all you're going to do is hit back for 51 twice, and that's not that strong. All you'll do is charge up your Bonfire for player phase. What I do recommend though is perhaps using Quick Impulse in the seal slot. I know you'll lose a bit of speed, but honestly, if you don't secure your kills, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. You could also just consider changing Melon Crusher to Slaying Axe with speed, and then you'll always get your Bonfires off. That's the super consistent build. I know losing out on all the bonus stats from Melon Crusher kind of stinks, but Melon Crusher isn't that good with Quick Repose anyways. It's kind of just better to run Slaying Axe in that case. But if you want to just keep the Melon Crusher and give yourself a really strong first engagement, like Quick Impulse is going to be pretty good here instead of Speed Refinement. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to miss some kills, and units are going to come in and probably get repositioned out, or they could get danced, and that's kind of scary. So yeah, I definitely recommend either Slaying Axe or Quick Impulse. Looking at Wind Demon's New York Camilla, pretty good build actually. Right away I can tell you I like this a lot. And the reason for that is because you're actually giving her a defined role, which is through Swordbreaker. And Swordbreaker plus Wo Dao means that you're going to get some really, really powerful special damage. Combining Moonbow with Wo Dao, you're going to get at least 10 true damage. And she's also supporting the team through Hone Attack and Guidance as well. So overall, like, really good build, and honestly I wouldn't even change anything about it. I just think this is a really solid concept, and there's nothing you need to really improve here. Overall, just good job. Good job. Let's compare it to Yuri's Camilla. Okay, so a pretty similar concept to the other Camilla we saw, because it's using Swordbreaker as well. And you're also getting that support as well, like Ward Fires and Spur Attack. You've also decided to keep Katamatsu, which is fine. I'm not totally against that. Now, your Camilla is definitely enemy phase oriented because you really want to take advantage of speed defense bond. But my recommendation to you is actually that you change Draconic Aura to Bonfire because they have the same special charge. I kind of don't like that either though. One thing I definitely recommend is just for consistency reasons. Like if you want to keep Katamatsu and Ward Fires for the support reasons, maybe give her Quick Impulse and then Bonfire, and you're going to get a really strong turn 1 engagement. And then refine Katamatsu with like defense or speed. Probably defense though, since you're already running Swordbreaker as it is. Bonfire here, defense refinement here, and Quick Impulse. Those are my 3 suggestions for you, and she's gonna check swords beautifully. And even if she's not fighting swords, she's gonna have pretty good speed, up to 40, using the speed defense bond. But yeah, Bonfire, defense or speed refinement, Katamatsu, and Quick Impulse, and you're pretty much set. Similar to the other Camilla, but overall, like, you know, you're good to go. You don't have to use Moonbow, you can actually just use Quick Impulse. Thanks, Yuri. Okay, Ziffer. There's a couple of ways to build Summer Elise, but ideally you build her as some sort of like pseudo offensive green mage support unit. That's my personal opinion on this, just because Nino is so widely available and easily merged. So I don't feel like you should invest highly into Elise to kind of fulfill that same role, and instead use her tome as it is, and maybe her rally. I'm not too big fan of rallies though. I think just drawback's better, because that's mobility is its own sort of support. Draconic Aura is fine in the special, but honestly, yeah, just give her like green tome breaker to check some green units. I don't know about Death Blow. If you use Death Blow, you really have to get her out of trouble. Like, she has to be repositioned out or danced out. So if you use her like that, you kind of make her more like Nino, and I'm not a big fan of that. So maybe consider just changing Death Blow to something like Fury 3, for instance, so you can use her more enemy phase like. Of course, if you have the bonds like attack speed bond, for instance, would be incredible. Attack res bond are all incredible, but those are too expensive. So like I said, like using Fury is a good option in the A slot, and then with green tome breaker. Pwn attack 3, again, just give her like some support rolls. I don't know about the speed thing. I'd probably use something like distant defense, honestly, so she can check units well. If you give her distant defense shield, she can definitely check Reinhardt. She can check other green tomes really well, and that's pretty good. Now, refining Hibiscus tome, I'd probably refine this with speed or res. If you do end up going with distant defense and a res refinement after Fury, actually, Iceberg becomes a better special than Draconic Aura. Overall though, that's what I recommend you do. Use the Summer Elise as kind of like a supportive unit that can check other units. That's how I would recommend doing. Okay, so I'm confirming the other Elise to yours, but it's not fully built from what I can see. So I'm gonna recommend literally like the same thing. Use her as like a supportive unit. So that's gonna be like Green Tome Breaker, Fury, just any sort of buff in the C slot that your team needs. Yeah, Deflect Magic's fine if you're going to use her counter Reinhardt, but honestly Distant Defense can kind of accomplish the same thing. Refine the tome with res or speed, and then Iceberg in the special with drawback in the movement special. That's pretty much it. Then you're good to go. Hopefully both of you were able to understand what I meant there. You can build her like Nino with Gromblade and such. I think she has the stats for it. But again, why do that unless Elise is like waifu? Like, you're just better off building up Nino at that point. A good solid build with Olivia to use a combination of Dancer's Fan and Breath of Life to do some healing. My suggestion though is I have this really unique way of making her heal without taking retaliation, because her bulk's like really pathetic. Other than res, she can't really take many hits. Like, look at this, like 53 attack. You attack a distant counter user, or if you attack an archer or dagger user, you might end up getting wrecked. A really interesting way to do this is Bash Assault Desperation. If you run Bash Assault Desperation, she's more likely to secure kills, especially with like Iceberg and such. And that way you can guarantee your healing is safely applied to allies around you using Dancer's Fan and the Breath of Life in the C slot. That's an interesting take on it. It does have some weaknesses though, like you probably need like a reciprocal aid user on your team, or she needs to bait out one unit with distant defense. That's my only like concern with it, of course, but it's something you consider. I'm not saying this is bad. You need a reciprocal aid user on the team, or you need to bait out one unit using distant defense. Having 34 res with 37 HP is pretty good bulk. It's just that defense isn't too good. So to get low, to use the Brash Salt Desperation combo, you just need to bait out one unit or use somebody with reciprocal aid. I'm not saying this is bad, I'm just giving you an idea. This has its pros and cons as well. Overall, like, fine, just upgrade the Breath of Life seal once you can. I use a similar build on my Lind, actually, with, she runs like Aura and double Breath of Life. Thanks, Nullset. Let's see if there's another Olivia to compare to. Sonic Storm? Yeah, I'm not gonna grill you for life and death here because you don't take any retaliation damage. With your Wind Sweep, you can attack like all the physical units, and then your bulk doesn't really matter for defense, and even then, like, your resistance bulk isn't awful either, especially with 45 speed. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's good for healing, that's for sure. 14 healing is nothing to laugh at, and this is really impressive. I think this is very creative, actually. Who died for this? Was that Joshua? If you're able to use life and death properly with like wind sweeps, water sweeps, fury for extra bulk, like that's how you make a unit shine, and yeah, that's how you do it. I like this. I like this a lot. And wind sweep is gonna hit a lot of units at 45 speed. So overall, like, easy clap. Charlotte is definitely one of the best wind boost users. This is on her default kit, so it's kind of interesting because she has really high base HP, which makes sense for Charlotte. I think Vantage is also pretty interesting because she has a lot of HP, so once you're out of that wind boost range, you got Vantage to work with. Close defense works well, and then you got huge bonfire hits with a combination of First Bite and close defense. An interesting support unit nonetheless. She's not going to get doubled because of wind boost, at least in the first few engagements, and then later through Vantage she could possibly get some kills here and there with bonfire. Overall, like, I like it a lot, and it's unique. You don't need to necessarily build a unit one way for it to work. So thanks, Chelsea. I clicked on Nespion. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Glimmer here, and it kind of applies the same rules that I've said before, and that's when you hit with Brave Axe, you're just going to end up charging Glimmer, but not necessarily using it. So what I suggest is changes to Draconic Aura or Bonfire. It looks like Bonfire might hit harder than Draconic Aura from what I can see, because your defense is 36. Yeah, once you're in Brazen range, it definitely scales better than the Draconic Aura does, so you do have Bonfire. Okay, yeah, that's definitely what you gotta run with the Brave set. Ori and Brazen is kind of awkward. I've never really been a big fan of both because to utilize them properly, you need to hover between 80% and 50% health, which in my opinion is kind of weird. It could happen like once or twice, but sometimes it just, one is usually not active while the other is active, so maybe consider running like perhaps Vantage with Brazen attack defense if you want to give them some enemy phase utility. You could run like Brash Assault Desperation, so Desperation Brash Assault 3, that'd be pretty good. Or Vantage. Obviously if you have Bold Fighter, yeah. If you have the other fighter skills, they're really good here, but I'm just assuming you don't, so like Bonfire, Brazen attack defense, Brash Assault, Desperation, that's pretty good here. Yeah, he does get doubled and such by everybody, but that's okay. It's not really a big deal. Also, Fortify Armor is awkward. I'm guessing you might have like an Armored Blade Mage on your team, because if you don't, then Ward Armor is actually a little bit better, just because the positioning requirements are hard to use on armor units, so that's pretty much what I recommend to change. Breakfast says Heavy Blade Seal could work better. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, Heavy Blade Glimmer could also work. Definitely a fan of that one. Okay, 176. Same idea here, guys. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the combination of Brazen Attack and Worry Fighter. I just feel like you can't really utilize both at the same time, so one scale just ends up being dead. But since you're running an enemy phase Crom, I feel like you probably want to just keep Worry Fighter. So the best ace skill is actually going to be Distant Counter, especially since it's Res Refined. So if you can find Distant Counter with Distant Defense, maybe kill one of the new Hectors, that would make him super strong. But if you can't do that and you want to try something else, maybe run Brazen Attack Defense with, again, something like Vantage in the B slot, which they work really well together. Like, you end up with so much attack when someone hits you, and then close defense helps you not die even if you're getting doubled. It's not really that big of a deal. If you do have obviously the Vengeful Fighter, for instance, that's ideally the B skill that you run. That's my only suggestion for you, like running Vantage instead of Worry Fighter. I know he gets doubled, but that's okay. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Getting doubled gives you faster Bonfire charge. It's not as bad as you think it is. And he has incredible bulk, so it's not really that big of a deal. But if you like Worry Fighter, then Distant Counter with Distant Defense is ideal. So thanks, guys. Thanks for sending me in the Croms. Well, you didn't put anything on here. So because you have Life and Death, is that what I'm going to find? Okay. Darting Blow, Water Sweep. Okay, card. I think Sakura's interesting nowadays. I feel like Felicia is definitely kind of like power creeped her because of Felicia's plate, but you can still make her work. Probably just keep Warding Stance, give her Distant Defense Seal. No, you know what? I'd probably use Quick Impulse, actually. So like Iceberg, Quick Impulse, Warding Stance with Quick Riposte. Those are all really good options to secure kills. Because you're definitely going to miss some kills with Kitty Paddle. Even with effective damage, it doesn't end up being all too good. But yeah, you want to like refine this ideally with like res and just make her like a super res mage check. And that's pretty good. So like Iceberg, Quick Impulse, or even if you have somebody on the team with Infantry Pulse, she's a good target to be hit by it. Snova says I have a Lolly Sakura as well. Minus HP plus attack. Definitely minus HP plus attack, Snova. Scales really well with Kitty Paddle. So like drawback, Iceberg, Warding Breath is fine. Quick Riposte, any sort of buff your team needs, and either have somebody with Infantry Pulse on the team or Quick Impulse. And if you have somebody with Infantry Pulse, then you want to run Distant Defense here, and she becomes like an incredible mage check. That's how I would build Kitty Sakura, just as like a kind of like a meta build.